The red light on Commander Jake Morrison's desk flashed 3 times before he noticed it. He was deep in reports about missing supply ships when the communication device finally caught his attention. Morrison reached over and pressed the button, expecting another routine message from Earth Command. "Commander Morrison, report to Admiral Carter's office immediately." "Priority Alpha," the voice said through the speaker. Morrison felt his stomach drop. Priority Alpha meant something big was happening. Something that could change everything for humanity's small place in the galaxy. He grabbed his uniform jacket and walked quickly through the corridors of the Mars Defense Station. The station buzzed with activity as always. Officers moved between departments, engineers worked on ship repairs, and scientists analyzed data from deep space patrols. But today felt different. Morrison could see it in people's faces. They looked worried. Admiral Lisa Carter was waiting for him when he arrived at her office. She stood behind her desk, looking out the large window at the red Martian landscape below. 2 other people were in the room. Morrison recognized Dr. Alex Turner from the Xenobiology Department and Captain Nina Brooks from the Fleet Command. "Jake, sit down," Admiral Carter said without turning around. "We have a problem." Morrison took a seat next to Dr. Turner. The scientist looked nervous, which was unusual. Turner had been studying alien species for 5 years since humanity made first contact, and nothing seemed to shake him anymore. 3 hours ago, we received a message from the Galactic Council, Admiral Carter continued. "They want to see us." "That's good news, isn't it?" Morrison asked. "We've been trying to get their attention for years." Captain Brooks shook her head. "Not this kind of attention. They're calling it a formal hearing. We're being summoned to answer charges." "Charges?" Morrison felt confused. "What kind of charges, Doctor?" Turner opened a tablet and showed Morrison the official message. The text was translated from the Council's common language, but the meaning was clear. Humanity was accused of building too many weapons. They were accused of being too aggressive. They were accused of threatening galactic peace. "This doesn't make sense," Morrison said after reading the message. "We barely have 50 ships total. Most galactic species have thousands." "That's exactly the problem," Dr. Turner explained. "Most species in the galaxy gave up warfare thousands of years ago. They see our military as primitive and dangerous." Admiral Carter finally turned around. Her face looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. "The Council operates under something called the Harmony Doctrine. All advanced civilizations are supposed to share technology peacefully. Military buildup is forbidden." "But what about the attacks on our colonies?" Morrison asked. "What about New Denver and Kepler Station? We lost hundreds of people." "The Council doesn't believe us," Captain Brooks said. "They think we're either lying or attacking ourselves to justify building weapons." Morrison stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see human ships in the shipyards. They were small compared to the massive alien vessels he had seen in the database, but they were tough and well-designed. Humanity had learned to build good ships because they had to. "Tell me about the Council," Morrison said. Dr. Turner activated a hologram projector. Images of different alien species appeared in the air above the table. The Council has 847 member species. The most powerful are the Zephyrians, the Ethereals, and the Collectivists. The first image showed tall, crystal-like beings that seemed to glow with inner light. The Zephyrians are made of living crystal. They've been peaceful for over 10,000 years. Their technology is based on harmonic resonance. The second image showed beings made of pure energy, shifting and changing shape constantly. The Ethereals don't have physical bodies anymore. They exist as energy patterns. They see physical warfare as completely pointless. The third image showed what looked like a single organism with many parts. The Collectivists share a hive mind. They can't understand why individual species would fight each other. "And they're all judging us," Morrison said. "The hearing is in 1 week," Admiral Carter said. "Captain Brooks will command the delegation. You'll be our primary representative." Morrison looked at the 3 officers. "What are our chances?" Nobody answered for a long moment. Finally, Dr. Turner spoke. "The Council has never expelled a species before, but they've never had to deal with humans before either. What's our defense? Morrison asked. Captain Brooks activated another hologram. This one showed attack patterns and ship debris. We tell the truth. Our colonies have been under attack for 2 years. 17 major incidents. Unknown attackers using advanced stealth technology. The attackers take everything, Dr. Turner added. They don't leave survivors, they don't make demands, they just attack and disappear. Morrison studied the attack data. The pattern was clear to anyone who knew how to read military reports. Someone was testing human defenses, learning their weaknesses, preparing for something bigger. Have any other species reported similar attacks? Morrison asked. None, Admiral Carter said. As far as we know, only human colonies are being targeted. That's suspicious, Morrison said. The Council doesn't think so, Captain Brooks replied. They think we're paranoid. Admiral Carter walked back to her desk and sat down. Jake, I'm putting you in charge of our defense. You have 1 week to prepare our case. Captain Brooks will handle the military side. Dr. Turner will provide the scientific evidence. What ship are we taking? Morrison asked. The UES Defiance, Captain Brooks said. It's our newest and most advanced vessel. Morrison knew the ship. It was impressive, by human standards, with powerful engines and advanced defensive systems. But compared to what he had seen of alien technology, it was nothing special. One more thing, Admiral Carter said. This hearing will be broadcast across the galaxy. Every species will be watching. If we fail, humanity might be cut off from galactic civilization forever. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The future of humanity's place in the galaxy depended on what happened in that council chamber. He looked at the hologram still showing the attack data. Admiral, I need access to all the military files, everything about the colony attacks, every piece of debris we've recovered, every scan we've made. Done, Admiral Carter said. And I need to talk to the survivors from the attacks, all of them. Also done. Morrison stood up and headed for the door. Then I better get started. We have 1 week to save humanity's future. As he walked back through the corridors of Mars' defense station, Morrison could feel people watching him. Word was already spreading about the council hearing. Everyone knew what was at stake. In his office, Morrison spread out reports and data files across his desk. Somewhere in all this information was the proof he needed. The proof that humanity wasn't the aggressor. The proof that they were actually the victims. He picked up the first report and began to read. Outside his window, human ships continued their patrols of the solar system, watching for threats that the galaxy refused to believe existed. The council chamber was unlike anything Commander Jake Morrison had ever seen. The massive sphere stretched out in all directions, with floating platforms for each of the 847 member species. Some platforms held crystal beings that sparkled in the artificial light. Others contained energy forms that shifted and danced like living flames. A few held creatures so strange that Morrison couldn't tell which end was their head. Captain Nina Brooks stood beside him on the human platform, which felt very small compared to the others. The UES Defiance hung in space outside the station, looking tiny next to the massive alien vessels surrounding it. Remember, Dr. Alex Turner whispered, speak clearly and don't show anger. Many species here communicate through emotion as much as words. Morrison nodded and looked up at the center of the chamber. High Arbiter Velthar floated there, a towering crystal being whose body reflected light in rainbow patterns. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. The Council recognizes the species known as humanity, Velthar announced. You stand accused of violating the Harmony Doctrine through excessive military development and aggressive expansion. Morrison stepped forward. High Arbiter, we appreciate the chance to address the Council. Humanity has always sought peaceful relations with all galactic species. A sound like breaking glass came from several platforms. Dr. Turner had warned him this was how Zephyrians laughed. Peaceful? Came a voice from another platform. Morrison looked over and saw a collection of insect-like creatures moving as one. This was Ambassador Hive Node 7734 of the Collectivists. Your species has built more warships in 5 years than most civilizations build in 1,000. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth's orbital defense platforms, bristling with weapons and shield generators. Another image showed the shipyards around Mars, where human vessels were being constructed and armed. These images were taken by our observation ships. Hive Node 7734 continued. They show a species obsessed with warfare and destruction. Morrison felt his jaw clench, but he kept his voice calm. Those defenses exist because we need them. Human colonies have been under attack for 2 years. The chamber filled with sounds Morrison couldn't identify. Some were like music, others like static electricity. Dr. Turner had told him these were the various species expressing disbelief. A new voice spoke, this one sounding like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. It came from a platform where energy beings danced in complex patterns. I am Lumina Core Prime of the Ethereals. We have studied your species' history. War and violence follow you wherever you go. Another hologram appeared. This one showed scenes from Earth's history. Ancient battles, medieval wars, modern conflicts. The images were carefully chosen to make humanity look as violent as possible. Your species has fought continuously for thousands of years. Lumina Core Prime continued. You bring this violence with you to the stars. That's not fair, Captain, Brooks said, stepping forward. Every species has a violent past. The difference is that we've learned from ours. Have you? High Arbiter Velthar asked. Then explain why you continue to build weapons when the galaxy has been at peace for millennia. Morrison activated his own hologram projector. Images appeared showing the aftermath of attacks on human colonies. Destroyed buildings, burned ships, empty settlements where hundreds of people once lived. This is New Denver Colony, Morrison said. Population 3,000. They were attacked 8 months ago by unknown ships using advanced stealth technology. No survivors. The chamber became quieter. Some of the alien sounds stopped. This is Kepler Station, Morrison continued, showing more destruction. A research facility studying gas giant mining. 500 scientists and workers. Attacked 5 months ago. Complete destruction. Morrison showed 17 more attack sites. Each one told the same story. Sudden attack, complete destruction. No survivors, no trace of the attackers. We've recovered ship fragments from some attack sites, Dr. Turner said, joining the presentation. The technology is unlike anything in our databases. The hull materials don't match any known alloy. Hive Node 7734's insects moved in patterns that Dr. Turner had said meant skepticism. You claim unknown attackers but provide no proof of their identity. How do we know you didn't stage these attacks yourselves? Morrison felt anger rising in his chest. Why would we destroy our own colonies? To justify your military expansion, Lumina Core Prime replied, a classic strategy among primitive species. We have scan records, Captain Brooks said. Energy signatures from the attacking ships. Scans can be faked, High Arbiter Velthar stated. Your species is known for deception. Morrison looked around the chamber. On platform after platform, he saw the same thing. Alien beings who had decided humanity was guilty before the hearing even began. They didn't want to hear evidence. They wanted to condemn. High Arbiter, Morrison said. What would convince you that these attacks are real? The crystal being's light patterns shifted. Nothing you could provide would be sufficient. Your species' history speaks for itself. Dr. Turner stepped forward. We've detected unusual energy readings in the areas where attacks occurred. Dark matter fluctuations that suggest advanced propulsion systems. Several platforms erupted in what sounded like laughter. A new voice spoke, this one deep and rumbling like an earthquake. It came from a platform holding rock-like beings. Dark matter propulsion is theoretical at best, the voice said. No species has ever achieved practical dark matter manipulation. That's exactly our point, Morrison said. Someone has technology beyond what any known species possesses. Or, High Arbiter Velthar said, you're inventing threats to justify your aggression. Morrison felt the hearing slipping away from them. No matter what evidence they presented, the council had already made up their minds. Humanity was guilty of being too warlike for galactic civilization. Back on the UES Defiance, Sub-Commander Rick Palmer was monitoring long-range sensors while the hearing continued. His job was to watch for any threats while the diplomatic team was occupied. What he saw on his screen made his blood run cold. "Captain Brooks," he said into his communication device, "we have a problem." Inside the council chamber, Brooks touched her earpiece. "What is it, Palmer?" "I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching the station. Multiple contacts, unknown. Configuration." Morrison saw Captain Brooks go pale. She looked at him and nodded slightly. "Hi, Arbiter," Morrison said. "We may need to postpone this hearing. Our ship is detecting incoming vessels." The crystal being's light patterns showed annoyance. Another human deception. There are no scheduled arrivals. Palmer's voice came through Brooks's earpiece again, loud enough for Morrison to hear. "Captain, these readings are off the charts. Whatever's coming, it's big." Suddenly the lights in the council chamber flickered. Emergency lighting came on, bathing everything in red. Alarm sounds began echoing through the station. High Arbiter Velthar's crystalline form began to pulse with agitated light. "What is happening?" An energy being from the station's control center materialized on a platform. "High Arbiter, our defense grid has gone offline. Unknown vessels are approaching on all vectors." Morrison looked at Captain Brooks. She was listening to Palmer's reports through her earpiece, and her face was getting paler by the second. "How many ships?" Morrison asked her quietly. "Palmer says at least 50, she whispered back. "Maybe more. They're using some kind of cloaking technology." The station shuddered as something hit it. Not weapons fire, but something else. Something that made the very structure of the station groan and twist. High Arbiter Velthar's voice boomed through the chamber. "All species are to remain calm. This is likely a malfunction in our systems." Another impact shook the station, this one stronger. Several of the floating platforms wobbled, and some of the smaller alien species made sounds of fear. Morrison grabbed his communication device. "Palmer, what's out there?" "Commander," Palmer's voice came back strained and worried. "You're not going to believe this. The ships that just decloaked, they don't show up properly on any of our sensors. It's like they're made of empty space." Captain Brooks looked at Morrison. They both knew what this meant. The attackers that had been hitting human colonies for 2 years had finally shown themselves, and they had come to the heart of galactic civilization. The council station shook again, harder this time. Commander Jake Morrison grabbed the edge of their platform as several alien representatives made panic sounds in their native languages. Through the chamber's transparent dome, he could see shapes, moving in space that seemed to bend light around them. "High Arbiter," Morrison shouted over the growing noise. "These are the ships that have been attacking our colonies. You need to evacuate the station." Velthar's crystal body flashed with angry red light. "Impossible. Our defense systems would have detected any approaching vessels." Sub-Commander Rick Palmer's voice crackled through Captain Nina Brooks's earpiece. "Captain, the attacking ships are using weapons I've never seen before. They're not firing energy beams or missiles. They're doing something to space itself." Morrison watched through the dome as sections of the outer station simply disappeared. Not destroyed by explosions, not melted by heat. They just stopped existing, leaving perfectly smooth edges where metal and crystal had been moments before. Dr. Alex Turner was studying readings on his portable scanner. "Jake, these energy patterns match exactly what we found at the colony attack sites. Same dark matter signatures, same reality distortion effects." The ethereal beings on their platform began pulsing with fearful energy patterns. Lumina Core Prime's voice sounded different now, higher and more frantic. "Our shields cannot deflect these weapons. They pass through our defenses as if they were not there." High Arbiter Velthar tried to maintain order in the chamber. "All species representatives will remain calm. Our station defense fleet will handle this situation." Morrison could see the Council's defensive ships through the dome. They were massive vessels, each one larger than humanity's entire fleet. But As they fired their weapons at the attacking ships, nothing happened. The energy beams passed right through the dark ships as if they were firing at empty space. "They're not fully in our dimension," Dr. Turner said, staring at his scanner. "The attacking ships exist partially in normal space and partially in dark matter space. That's why conventional weapons can't touch them." Another section of the station vanished, this one much closer to the council chamber. Several alien platforms began moving toward the exits, but the station's artificial gravity was failing. Small alien beings floated helplessly in the air. Captain Brooks was coordinating with Palmer through her communication device. "Rick, can the Defiance's weapons hit these things?" "Negative, Captain. Our conventional weapons are having the same problem as everyone else's, but I'm detecting something interesting. Our dark matter detection equipment is getting solid readings on these ships." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. "Brooks, Earth developed dark matter detection specifically because of the colony attacks. We built that equipment to track these exact ships, which means Earth Command knew this was coming," Brooks realized. Palmer's voice came through again. "Captain, I'm receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Carter. The Terran Defense Fleet is en route." High Arbiter Velthar heard this, and his crystal form blazed with desperate light. "How far away is your fleet?" 20 minutes, Brooks replied after checking with Palmer. "The station will not survive 20 minutes, came a new voice. It belonged to one of the rock-like beings Morrison had seen earlier. Half of their platform had been caught in one of the reality warping attacks, and several of their species had simply ceased to exist. Morrison made a decision. "Captain Brooks, we need to coordinate the evacuation. Our ship's sensors are the only ones that can track the attackers." Brooks nodded and opened a channel to all ships in the area. "This is Captain Brooks of the human vessel UES Defiance. We are taking command of evacuation operations. All ships follow our targeting data to avoid the attacking vessels." Several alien voices protested immediately. The collectivists' Hive Node 7734 buzzed angrily. "Humans cannot command council ships. You lack the authority." Another reality warping blast tore through the station, taking out the platform next to the collectivists. The insect-like beings went silent. Morrison grabbed the chamber's communication system. "This is Commander Morrison. Any ship that wants to survive needs to follow our instructions. We're the only ones who can see these attackers clearly." The station's Lieutenant Dan Hughes, a young officer Brooks had brought for technical support, was working frantically with the Council's evacuation systems. "Captain, the main evacuation pods are offline. We need to get people to the docking bays manually." Morrison looked around the chamber at hundreds of different alien species, many of whom couldn't survive in the same environment. "How do we evacuate beings made of energy, or gas, or living crystal?" Dr. Turner was already working on the problem. "Each species has emergency life support systems, but we need to get them to ships that can support their biology." The chamber shook again as another section of the station disappeared. This time, Morrison could see the attacking ships more clearly. They were sleek and black, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved through space like sharks through water, leaving trails of distorted space behind them. "Jake," Brooks said, "Palmer is reporting that some of the attacking ships are changing course. They're heading directly for the council chamber." Morrison realized what was happening. They're not just attacking randomly, they're targeting the political heart of galactic civilization. High Arbiter Velthar's crystal form was dimming as fear took hold. "Who are these attackers? What do they want?" "I don't think they want anything," Morrison replied. "They're trying to destroy the council entirely." Dr. Turner looked up from his scanner. "Jake, I'm reading massive energy buildup from the approaching ships. Whatever they're planning to do to this chamber, it's going to be big." Morrison made another decision. "Everyone who can move needs to get to the docking bays now. Captain Brooks, can the Defiance cover the evacuation?" "Our weapons won't stop them, but we can try to distract them," Brooks replied. As alien beings began floating and flying toward the chamber exits, Morrison helped coordinate the evacuation. The energy beings moved fastest, simply flowing through the air toward safety. The crystal beings were heavier and needed assistance. The insect swarms stayed together, protecting their weaker members. Palmer's voice came through the communication system, addressing everyone in the chamber. Unknown ships incoming. ETA 2 minutes to council chamber. Morrison looked through the dome and saw 3 of the dark ships approaching in perfect formation. They moved without any visible propulsion, sliding through space like they were part of it. "That's it," he said to Brooks. "Everyone out now." But as the last alien beings fled the chamber, Morrison saw something on Dr. Turner's scanner that made him stop. "Alex, what's that energy signature?" Turner's face went pale. "Jake, they're not just going to destroy the chamber. They're going to collapse this entire section of space, create a miniature black hole." "How big?" Morrison asked. "Big enough to take out half the station and any ships within 10,000 kilometers. Morrison realized the full horror of the situation. The attacking ships weren't just trying to destroy the Council. They were trying to eliminate as many galactic species as possible in one strike. Captain Brooks was already moving toward the exit. "Commander, we need to go now." But Morrison was looking at the chamber's emergency systems. "Brooks, if I can, overload the station's power core. It might disrupt their weapon." "That's suicide, Jake. It's the only way to save the evacuation ships." Through the dome, Morrison could see the 3 dark ships taking position around the chamber. Energy was building between them, reality starting to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. Palmer's voice echoed through the chamber one last time. "All ships prepare for emergency jump. Something big is about to happen." Morrison's hand moved toward the station's emergency controls, knowing that in seconds, everything would change. Commander Jake Morrison's hand froze over the emergency controls as space around the Council station suddenly filled with new ships. But these weren't more attackers. These were human vessels, and they looked like nothing Morrison had ever seen before. The ships were dark, almost black, with hulls that seemed to drink in the starlight around them. They moved through space without visible engines, sliding between dimensions like the attacking vessels. Captain Tony Walsh's voice came through the communication system, calm and confident. "This is Admiral Carter's task force. All human personnel prepare for combat operations." Morrison stared through the dome as the new human ships took position around the dark attackers. "Brooks, what are those ships? They're not in any database I know." Captain Nina Brooks was listening to reports from Sub-Commander Rick Palmer. "Palmer says they're broadcasting Terran Defense Fleet codes, but their technology—" She paused, looking confused. "It's like they're using the same dark matter systems as the attackers." Dr. Alex Turner was studying his scanner with wide eyes. "Jake, these human ships are partially phased out of normal space just like the enemy vessels, but their energy signatures are different, more controlled." The 3 dark ships that had been preparing to destroy the Council chamber suddenly changed course. They spread out to face the new human fleet, and Morrison could see energy building between them again. Captain Walsh's voice came through the communication system again. "Council Station, this is the UES Retribution. Begin immediate evacuation of all remaining personnel. We are engaging hostile forces." Morrison watched as the first human ship, its hull flickering between visible and invisible, fired weapons that looked like tears in space itself. The energy beam hit one of the attacking ships and actually damaged it. Pieces of the dark vessel scattered into normal space, becoming visible for the first time. "They can hurt them," Morrison said in amazement. "More than that," Dr. Turner replied, studying his readings. "They're using the same technology, but better. Look at how precisely they control the phase shifts." More human ships appeared around the station. Morrison counted 12 of them, all using the same impossible dark matter technology. They moved in perfect coordination, like they had been fighting this kind of battle for years. The attacking ships, which Morrison now realized had been called the Void Reapers in the intelligence briefings, tried to flee. But every time they attempted to phase out of normal space, the human ships followed them. The battle moved through dimensions Morrison couldn't see, with ships appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Admiral Lisa Carter's voice came through the station's communication system. "Council representatives, this is Admiral Carter of the Terran Defense Fleet. We are here to provide assistance." High Arbiter Velthar, his crystal form still dim with shock, managed to respond. "Admiral Carter, how do your ships possess such technology?" "We reverse-engineered it from wreckage recovered during the colony attacks," Carter replied. "What you call impossible, we call necessary." Morrison realized the full scope of what had happened. While the galaxy dismissed human military preparation as primitive aggression, Earth had been secretly developing technology to fight an enemy that officially didn't exist. Chief Engineer Sam Price's voice joined the communication channel. "Council Station, we're reading massive structural damage to your facility. Recommend immediate evacuation to human vessels." Lieutenant Betty Cole, operating weapons systems on one of the human ships, provided tactical updates. "Admiral, we've disabled 3 enemy vessels. The remaining ships are trying to retreat, but Captain Walsh had other plans." "Negative on the retreat. We're not letting them escape to attack more colonies." Morrison watched through the dome as the human fleet began what could only be described as a hunt. The dark matter warships pursued the Void Reapers through phase shifts and dimensional transitions, never letting them escape. Dr. Turner was recording everything on his scanner. "Jake, the human ships aren't just matching the enemy technology. They're surpassing it. Look at these energy efficiency readings." The final battle took place in normal space, where Morrison could see it clearly. The remaining Void Reaper ships, revealed to be ancient vessels covered in strange symbols, faced the human fleet in a last desperate fight. Captain Walsh coordinated the attack with cold precision. "Lieutenant Cole, prepare reality anchor weapons, don't let them phase out." Morrison had never heard of reality anchor weapons, but he could see their effect. The Void Reaper ships became solid, unable to shift between dimensions. They were trapped in normal space where the human weapons could reach them. The end came quickly. One by one, the enemy ships were destroyed by weapons that seemed to fold space around them. The final Void Reaper vessel tried to ram the Council Station in a suicide attack, but Admiral Carter's flagship, the UES Dominion, intercepted it. Morrison watched as the human flagship used what Dr. Helen Ross's voice described as dark matter saturation to collapse the enemy ship into a point of nothingness. The Void Reaper vessel simply stopped existing, leaving only empty space behind. Silence fell over the council chamber. The surviving alien representatives floated on their platforms, staring at the human fleet that had just saved their lives. High Arbiter Velthar was the first to speak. His crystal form pulsed with shame and gratitude. "Commander Morrison, it appears we owe your species an apology." Morrison looked around the chamber at the alien beings who had been ready to condemn humanity just hours before. "High Arbiter, we didn't develop these weapons to threaten anyone. We developed them because we had to." Admiral Carter's image appeared, as a hologram in the center of the chamber. She looked tired but satisfied. "The species you just encountered call themselves the Void Reapers. They've been systematically eliminating potential threats across the galaxy for millions of years." "How do you know this?" asked Lumina Core Prime of the Ethereals. "We captured some of their data during the colony attacks," Carter replied. "They target species that show rapid military advancement. We were next on their list after they finished with us." Hive Node 7734 of the collectivists made sounds of distress. "They would have destroyed us all." "Eventually, yes," Carter confirmed. "They've done it before to hundreds of other species. The galaxy's peaceful nature made you all easy targets." Morrison realized the full irony of the situation. "The very military buildup you condemned us for is what saved you." Captain Brooks stepped forward. "The Void Reapers attacked our colonies, first because our technological advancement was faster than any species in recorded history, but they didn't expect us to adapt their own technology and improve it." Dr. Turner displayed his final scans for the Council. "The human dark matter manipulation systems are more advanced than anything the Void Reapers possessed. Humanity didn't just survive their testing. Humanity surpassed them." High Arbiter Velthar's crystal form began to brighten with what Morrison hoped was respect. "Commander Morrison, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally request that humanity consider providing defense for Council space." Morrison looked at the human fleet surrounding the damaged station. Ships that had been built in secret, using technology reverse-engineered from an enemy, the galaxy refused to believe existed. High Arbiter, humanity will share our defensive technology with any species willing to contribute to galactic security. But the days of dismissing human capabilities are over. Admiral Carter's hologram nodded. We've learned that peace is only possible when good people are prepared to fight for it. The galaxy has been fortunate that someone was watching the dark spaces between stars. Morrison watched as alien representatives began approaching the human platforms, no longer as judges but as petitioners seeking protection. The species that had called humanity primitive and violent now begged for their help. Captain Walsh's final report came through the communication system. All Void Reaper vessels destroyed. Galaxy is secure. Morrison looked out at the human dark matter warships, vessels that had made the Galactic Council speechless not through intimidation, but through salvation they never saw coming. The galaxy had learned what humanity had always known. Sometimes, the greatest threats come from the darkness, and only those prepared to face that darkness can protect the light.